Welcome to Beyond the Shadows, where we journey into the eerie and the unexplained. My name is Ray, and with me is Grim. Each week, we delve into the darkest corners of the paranormal, exploring haunted locations, mysterious phenomena, and chilling tales from the beyond.
Whether you're a believer or a skeptic, our goal is to bring you face to face with the unknown. From ghostly apparitions and poltergeist activities to cryptids and urban legends, we cover it all.
So turn off the lights, settle in, and prepare yourself for a journey beyond the shadows. The truth is out there, and together, we will uncover it, one haunting tale at a time.
Now let's dive into tonight's episode and discover what awaits us in the realm of the unknown.
Hi, Spooky Fam. Welcome back. Welcome back. As you've seen in the last video, and as we've been talking about for a minute, I got married. Shit
Let's
has
have a list
changed.
of congratulations, Bray, in the
Yay!
chat.
Good stuff,
Let's
good
fucking
stuff.
go. I
Yeah.
had so much fun at the
It
wedding.
was a
It was
lot
so
of
much fun.
fun. It was
No
chaotic.
stressful.
It was, yeah, no. There was so much prep, so much stuff like leading up to it. And then the day of, like, I was trying to make sure everything's perfect, but also trying to be laid back. So, but it was a lot. I'm really grateful for all of you guys kind of like throwing all hands on deck to make sure it wasn't a burning
I was
trash fire.
grateful for all the help that I had with the food,
Yeah.
getting it all set up for the reception home.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for you cooking because I smashed. I was so hungry when we got to the reception.
I'm
I
glad that
destroyed.
everyone liked it, and
Yeah,
everyone was saying that the guac that I made was, for my first time making it, almost perfect.
yeah, that's awesome. That's
That
awesome.
made me smile. So,
Well, so that's the update on us. let's let's do this. Spooky season. Time for more spooky shit. We are going to be talking about the next few weeks. We are going to be covering haunted locations. We are starting this with the Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
but before we get into this,
Before
I
we
want
get
to
into this,
specify why we're doing haunted locations.
yeah, let's get
For
into that. Take us away,
so,
Grimothy.
me and Ray talked for a good bit of time. We want to do a goal for you guys watching the channel, following us on all our social media, and subscribe to us on YouTube. If we hit 50 subscribers, we will be doing a haunted investigation at Rhodes Hotel. Ray just walks away from me.
Don't worry, I'm
We're
gonna
doing an
get everything.
investigation at Rhodes Hotel at 50 subscribers. And when we hit that goal, we're going to be doing a either raffle or a first come first serve because it's going to be a max of 15 people that'll be staying with us. We are paying for the investigation. All you have to pay for is your hotel for the stay and your transportation, whether flight or gas for your vehicle, to get to the location with us. You will be getting a free investigation. You'll be getting a custom shirt made by the one and only Ray for joining us on an investigation. And you get to have some fun with us. It's going to be such a great time.
At a
There
spooky
might be
place. Oh,
some really cool things going on before the investigation starts. We'll get back to you guys on that. We're still trying to iron out the details for the entire, probably you say about a weekend trip,
mm-hmm.
4 or 5 day trip.
Probably a weekend trip. We'll see. We'll iron it out. We'll figure it out. We'll give you more details when
Yeah,
we come up with the information.
but we want to let you guys know now that we're doing a goal for us to do investigations. So, with that being said, let's get into the haunted locations.
Waverly Hills. Let's go. Would you like to start, kind sir?
Yeah, sure. During the 1800s and early 1900s, America was ravaged by a deadly disease known by many as the White Death, tuberculosis. This terrifying and very contagious plague for which no cure existed, claimed entire families and sometimes entire towns in the 1900s. Louisville, Kentucky had the highest tur- tur-
Tuberculosis.
tuberculosis. My brain just burped for a second. I
It's
apologize.
okay.
Death rate. Kentucky had the highest tuberculosis death rate in America. Built on low swampland in the area was the perfect breeding ground for disease. And in 1910, a hospital was constructed on a windswept hill in southern Jefferson County that had been designed to combat the horrific disease. The disease continued to run rampant through the region, and eventually, with donations of money and land, a new hospital was started in 1924.
Dang. Okay. The new structure, known as Waverly Hills, opened 2 years later in 1926. It was considered the most advanced tuberculosis sanatorium in the county, but even then, most of the patients succumbed to the disease. There was no medicine available at the time to treat the disease, and so many patients were offered rest, fresh air, and lots of nutritious food. Sadly, the main use for the hospital was to isolate those who had come down with the disease and to keep them away from those who had not. Families were tragically divided, with parents or even children forced into the sanatorium with little contact with their loved ones, which I think is horrifying. There's
That
stories of,
that's sad.
experience of people just having to send loved ones away, and the kids grow up without parents, or kids go in there and they don't see their parents. And a lot of places like that, it's once you get in, that's it. Like, you're not leaving.
You can't leave. It's you. That is where you live for the rest of your days, and it's literally days, which is the saddest part.
Yeah.
Treatments for tuberculosis were sometimes as bad as the disease itself. Some of the experiments that were conducted in search of a cure seem barbaric by today's standard, but others are now common practice. Patients' lungs were exposed to ultraviolet light to try to stop the spread of the bacteria. This was done in sunrooms using artificial light in place of sunlight, or on the roof or open porches of the hospital, since fresh air was thought to also be a possible cure. Patients were often placed in front of huge windows or on the open porches, no matter what the season. Old photographs show patients lounging in chairs looking at the fresh air, t- taking in the fresh air, sorry, I can't read today, while literally covered with snow.
That's horrifying. And the weather is, we share the same type of weather. It's not like this is somewhere else in the US. Like, we're in the same
Yeah,
region, so it could be like,
and they're up on top of the hill, so they're getting more snow on top of mountaintops and everything else.
and it's gonna
So
be
higher
cold, and snow is
altitudes,
cold, and oh my god. I'm a cold person in general, and my body does not like winter, and I can't imagine spending hours outside just covered in snow. That's disgusting. Oh,
the first part I couldn't possibly even think of is, and one thing that I truly believe in, and I know it happens a lot more than it should. No parent should ever have to bury their children.
right.
How many parents had to bury their children because of this disease at the time? Which, I mean, it's understandable though. There's no cure. Science hasn't improved yet for the cure to find a cure for disease. It's just a really sad thing to think about.
Right. Oh. Other treatments were less pleasant and much bloodier. I'm so ready for this paragraph. Balloons would be surgically implanted in the lungs and then filled with air to expand them. Needless to say, this often had disastrous results, as did an operation where muscles and ribs were removed from a patient's chest to allow the lungs to expand further and let in more oxygen. This blood soaked procedure was seen as a last resort, and many patients did not survive it. While the patients who survived both the disease and the treatments left Waverly Hills through the front door, many others left through what they came to be known as the body chute. This enclosed tunnel was for the dead led from the hospital to the railroad tracks at the bottom of the hill. Using a motorized rail and cable system, the bodies were lowered in secret to the waiting trains. This was done so that the patients would not have to see how many were leaving the hospital as a corpse. Their mental health, and the doctors believed, was just as important as their physical health. I
I
mean,
get it, but at the same time, I don't. That's still kind of on a sketchy thing for
I
me
I
personally.
feel it as well. I was about to say I get it for like mental health, not having to see how many people are leaving.
And body suits
Yeah,
and
but
seeing
also I
only seeing the
hate that.
are cured leaving.
I hate that.
That's
It just makes my body hurt for people who had experienced
but
that.
you would think people would start noticing that, hey, where did I didn't see this person walk out the front door. Where's Jack at?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's a little sketchy, and you don't even reach out to the families of the people that lost their loved ones.
That's what I'm kind of wondering. Like, what what all did they do for the families of the people that they were transporting? But also the fact that you're just transporting them. What are they doing with the bodies? Like, I have so many questions. I
You're
just
taking them down to a train,
Yeah, but where do they
secret.
go from there? You know what I mean? They just getting placed somewhere, dumped somewhere. I hate that. Like
Yeah,
the
I
stories of
don't.
like old TB hospitals and like all of the like old insane asylums and all of that, and just how they cared for the deceased is rough.
Yeah, there are many inaccurate reports as to how many people died during Waverly Hills' decades of operation. Some claim that tens of thousands died with the walls of the hospital, but the number is greatly exaggerated. According to Dr. J. Frank Stewart, a former assistant medical director at the hospital, the highest number of deaths to occur at Waverly Hills in a single year was 152. By 1955, those numbers had dropped as low as 42 deaths, and it has been estimated based on death certificates that were filed that approximately 6,000 people died there, dating all the way back to original hospital records from 1911. While far short of the number being tossed about in the legends, it's still a tremendous number of deaths to have occurred in a single structure.
Hmm. That seeing numbers like that, it's like so unfathomable to me. It's so hard to believe that like that really wasn't that long ago that people were
That was,
dealing with stuff like that.
yeah,
Like we have COVID and the experiences from COVID and like how modern, for us, for like Gen
modern day
Zs and everybody younger, us dealing with that seemed crazy and like a lot, and it was hard for us to fathom at the time. But then we have situations like this where medicine was not what it is now, and we thought like COVID was bad to us. People had to live through, tuberculosis, and then all of the stuff that happened before
be
that.
completely
Like
closed
that's
off from their family.
yeah,
No communication whatsoever because they didn't have cell phones
right.
back then. The only way you can really communicate with your family is letters. And who's to say you actually got letters from your family then?
Right.
Because this hospital was completely closed off to those that did not have tuberculosis. No one was getting it unless you had that disease.
Right. I
That
can't even
way, it's not
imagine.
spreading.
I think that's one of the things that makes like reading, the history of like, you know, early 1900s, like all of the stuff they had to deal with. It's so hard to imagine because it feels like it's a whole different like lifetime. It's like something that we like this doesn't happen to people. This isn't real.
It's
But
hard to believe
people
because
live through this. Yeah.
we grew up with advanced medicine, advanced technology in general.
Right.
It's just the way we grew up was with advanced technology. But at the same time, for those that grew up with DSL, we've seen how far technology's advanced from DSL to what we have now.
Mm-hmm.
At a click of a button, instantly you can get your answers
Right.
instead of having to wait and listen to that dial tone. So I can see how technology's advanced so quickly from that point to now, to from the early 1900s, late 1800s to now in medicine.
Right. Oh, okay. By the late 1930s, tuberculosis had begun to decline around the world, and by 1943, new medicines had largely eradicated in the United States. A small jump in new cases did occur after World War II, and many soldiers returning from war were housed at Waverly Hills. Dr. Stewart noted in his autobiography that many of the soldiers had cases that were so advanced they did not live for more than a week after arriving at the hospital. So it got worse.
I don't think that the disease got worse. I think they were living through it with the war,
Oh, well, yeah, they had a lot
or
of
just
other stuff that they were dealing with.
yeah, that it wasn't just the tuberculosis was there and it was already set in and it was just building through time and it wasn't getting treated at all. So they got it when they got to the Waverly Hills sanatorium. It was too late. They only had that week left. No treatment would have saved them.
Right.
It's like you finally feel like something's off and you go to the hospital to get checked out. You're already at terminal cancer kind of thing. There's no real treatment that you have left for,
Hmm.
which is sad. And it is
Yeah,
really sad.
it is.
In 1961, Waverly Hills was closed down, but was reopened a year later as Woodhaven
Geriatric?
Geriatric Sanatorium. There have been many rumors and stories told by patient mistreatment and unusual experiments during the years that the building was used for an old age home. Some of them have been proven to be false, but others have unfortunately turned out to be true. Electroshock therapy, which was considered to be highly effective in those days, was widely used for a variety of ailments. Budget cuts in the 1960s and 70s led to both horrible conditions and patient mistreatments. And in 1982, the state closed the facility for good. So it went from a sick hospital to an old age home that used electroshock therapy. Who knows what else was used there?
Right.
There's a lot of ways that of mistreatment, lobotomies, and stuff like that could have been used there.
Yeah, you're just going from drastic measures to drastic measures. That's a
Yeah.
buildup of energy, too. It's a lot of suffering.
Yep.
Is any wonder, after all the death, pain, and agony within these walls, that Waverly Hills is considered to be one of the most haunted places in the country? The buildings and land were auctioned off and changed hands many times over the course of the next 2 decades. In 1983, a developer purchased the property with plans to turn it into a minimum security prison for the state of Kentucky. Plans were dropped after neighbors protested, and a new idea to turn the former hospital into apartments was devised. A lack of financing caused this plan to be abandoned. I wouldn't want to live there. With
No,
all of the
no. After all,
history,
with all the history of the building, no. And you would have to let people know the history of the building before you could rent out rooms. Like, yeah, there's been a lot of deaths in this building. At least today's age, you're supposed to let people know someone died inside the building.
oh,
In March 1996, Waverly Hills and the surrounding land was bought by Robert Aberhaski. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. Who ran Christ the Redeemer Foundation Incorporated. He had plans to construct the world's tallest statue of Jesus on the Waverly site, along with an art and worship center. The statue, which was inspired by the famed Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio de
De
Rio
Janeiro.
de Rio de Janeiro, was to be suited on the roof of the hospital at a cost of about $4 million. The next phase of his plan was to convert the sanatorium into a chapel, theater, and gift shop for another $8 million. Not surprisingly, donations to a project fell far short of what was expected. During the first year, only $3,000 was raised towards the effort. The project was canceled in December of 1997. So all this is going on after I was born, after you were born.
Mm-hmm. Here's my thing.
Wow.
Locations like that have a lot of trauma and a lot of history, keep them authentic to what they are in respect of the lives that have been lost.
Yeah.
Completely that's how I feel about a lot of locations. If we can just fund to keep, like, preserve it, essentially, fund to preserve the location as like a memory for the people that were lost, and not just flatten the land and build something with a gift shop. That irritates me. And that's just my opinion. Albert Haskey abandoned the Waverly Hills property and then, in order to recoup some of his costs, tried to have the property condemned so that the buildings could be torn down and redeveloped. This plan was blocked by the county, and according to rumor, demolition work was then done around the southern edge of the building in order to undermine the structural foundations and collect insurance money. This scheme also failed, and in 2001, Waverly Hills was sold to Charlie and Tina Mattingly, the current owners of the property.
So now you guys have the history of the Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Now we're going to get into why it is known today as one of the most haunted places in the United States.
Hmm?
By 2001, the once stately building had been nearly destroyed by time and the elements of and vandals who came here looking for a thrill. Waverly Hills had become the local haunted house, and it became a magnet for the homeless looking for shelter and teenagers who broke in looking for ghosts. The hospital soon gained a reputation for being haunted, and stories began to circulate of resident ghosts, like the little girl who had been seen running up and down the third floor solarium. The little boy who was spotted with a leather ball, the hearse that appeared on the back of the building dropping off coffins, the woman with the bleeding wrist who cried for help, and others. Visitors told of slamming doors, lights in the windows as if power was still running through the building, strange sounds, and eerie footsteps in empty rooms.
Other legends told of a man in a white coat who was seen walking in the kitchen, and the smell of cooking food that sometimes wafted through the rooms. The kitchen was a disaster, a ruin of broken windows, fallen plaster, broken tables and chairs, and puddles of water and debris that resulted in a leaking roof. The cafeteria was not had not fared much better. Even so, a number of people had reported footsteps in the room, a door swinging shut under its own power, and the smell of fresh baked bread in the air.
Ooh, that would entice me.
You're just smelling bread as you walk through.
Dude, I love the smell of fresh baked bread.
Listen, if I go to a haunted location and immediately smell some sort of pastry or bread good, I don't want to leave. It just
I'm
smells
hungry.
good.
I'm hungry. I'm fucking hungry. Right? I'm a bread connoisseur. I love bread. You take me to like Texas Roadhouse or something like that, I'm filling up on dinner rolls.
I mean, agreed. Agreed.
Olive Garden, just give me them breadsticks. Keep them coming.
Oh, now I'm hungry.
Perhaps the greatest and most controversial legend of Waverly Hills, was connected to the fifth floor of the building. This floor of the old hospital consisted of two nurses' stations, a pantry, a linen room, medicine room, and two medium-sized rooms, both on both sides of the two nurses' stations. One of these rooms, room 502, is the subject of many rumors and legends, and just about every curiosity seeker that had broken into Waverly Hills over the years wanted to see it. This is where, according to the stories, people have seen shapes moving in the windows, have heard disembodied voices, and, if the legends are to be believed, have even jumped to their deaths.
Oh, okay.
So, not only do we have the amount of deaths just from tuberculosis and the mistreatments of patients, we have people that off to themselves by jumping to their death.
Mm,
So the amount of energy in that room, there's definitely a portal in that room, in the building itself. It's a spiraling beacon at this point.
I'm wondering if there's a lot of negative energy in that room and that's what's causing people to, like, result in bad situations like that.
Yeah, it's like the unalive forest.
Hmm.
Don't want to say the actual name for
Hmm.
YouTube's sake,
It's
but
in Japan.
yeah,
It's the
a
place.
forest in Japan that it's believed that the amount of negative energy coming from the forest itself, people go in there just to do one thing, which
Mm,
is really unfortunate. And if you are feeling that way, seek help, please.
absolutely. Okay. There are a lot of legends about what went on in this part of the hospital, but perhaps the biggest misconception was that this was the floor used to house mentally ill tuberculosis patients. This was not the case. The patients here were not insane, nor were they confined to their rooms. They were free to move about, just like patients at all of the other floors of the hospital. This floor, thanks to its design, allowed patients to still benefit from the fresh air and sunshine that was believed to cure, or at least extend the life of, those with the disease. It was in the center of the hospital. It was centered in the middle of the hospital, and the two wards extending out of the nurse's station were glassed in on all sides and open out into the patio type roof. Hmm.
There's so much to this place.
That my brain is trying to, like, create a floor plan right now, and I'm so lost.
Yeah, like if we ever go to this place, it's we're not going to have one person going into one room. We're going to have a team of people going into
Yeah,
each
it's
room because
I'm already lost. Like, this
yeah,
this building, the building is huge, as you can see from the photos that we're adding. It's a huge building, and I can definitely see people getting lost in it.
we're going to
Being
have
me, I
them.
am people.
I am pretty good about tracking my way through things. I don't get lost very easily. Ray, on the other hand,
I'm gonna lead my group astray.
yeah,
And
that's why I'll be the guide. Well, what do you guys think so far of the Waverly Hills Sanatorium? I think it's horrifying but sad at the same time. And if you're someone that picks up on emotions like I do, it's going to be a heart wrenching place when you enter, I believe.
right. All right. I'm gonna read a couple more so we can get through this.
Yeah.
Okay. According to the stories, a nurse was found unalived in room 502 in 1928. She had committed she had unalived herself by hanging herself from the light fixture. She was 29 years old at the time of her death, unmarried and pregnant.
Oh,
Okay, so I'm pausing this paragraph. Um, there are people I know who are trying to communicate with her when they go there because people believe that like there was more going on as to
yeah.
why she did what she did with her being pregnant. People think that there was maybe cause of death. Um, her depression over the situation led her to take her own life. It's unknown how long she may have been hanging in the room before her body was discovered, and this would not be the only tragedy to occur in the connection of room 502. In 1932, another nurse who worked in the same room jumped from the roof patio and plunged several stories to her death. No one seems to know why she would have done this, but many have speculated that she may have actually been pushed over the edge. There are no records to indicate this, but rumors continue to persist. Those are the stories anyway. As with so many legends, no records exist to say any of this has actually happened. There are also conflicting accounts on as to how the woman managed to hang herself. This is what I'm saying. Some say that she did it from the light fixture, others say from a pipe over the door, and some say from the rafters. There are no rafters, and the pipe over the door was part of a sprinkler system installed in 1972, and the light fixture is hung on a light decorative chain that would not hold the weight of a person. There is no actual documentation of either death, although some claim the stories were verified by a former staff member, John Thornberry, who died in 2006. According to obituary, he was born in 1922, which would have made him 6 and 10 years old at the time of the alleged deaths that were connected to room 502. This makes this verification more a little problematic. So I know there's a lot of people that have their opinions on specifically the nurse who hung herself. Um, it's that's the case with a lot of locations. Um, that there's speculations, there's stories that are passed that we have no verification if it actually happened, and people start rumors about things to add an extra element to a location. So I mean, it's kind of hard if we have nothing to prove it that like this was even a thing in the first place.
Yeah. There's a lot. And we are reading all this to you guys from AmericanHauntingsInc.com. If you guys want to read further and conduct your own opinions on this, definitely check this website out. It's very thorough about everything about this area, and they do really good with a lot of other haunting places as well.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely go check out AmericanHauntingsInc.com. Not sponsored, just a tool that we both use for haunted locations when we want to do research for where we're going to do our next investigation. So I think there's a whole lot more here, but we are running out of time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely guys go check this website out And if you want investigation there, be careful. Bring a bunch of people with you.
Well, if you want to
People
go
that you
alone, go
trust.
alone. But I don't suggest that. Also, that just sounds horrifying.
Go with other people because whenever you're doing an investigation, period, go with other people.
You have somebody to fact check sounds with you and help you debunk stuff, and it makes
And
investigating easier.
you also have numbers if there's a homeless person in there that's going to try to scare you away.
Yep.
So always, when doing investigations, go with a team. Don't do it on your own. Because a lot of these haunted places, there's not only scary things in the spiritual realm, there's scary things in the physical realm.
Yep.
And it's not worth it, in my opinion, to go alone.
Right. Well,
I love you guys. Oh, before we leave, do we want to do our ad read now? Or we're going to use the old one? We're going to cut this part out.
well, yeah, we'll use the old one and we could just record a new one later.
Okay. All right, so we love you guys. We will catch you next week where we will be talking about another haunted location. And
Mm-hmm.
remember, 50 subscribers here on YouTube. We will start setting plans in motion for Rhodes Hotel in Indiana. Peace.
Until next time.